Bazooka Joe here for another Consim World 2021 Expo video, and this is called Unboxing the Purchases. And I did a video, first part of what's on sale at the flea market here at the Expo, and today we also had the door prize raffle that they make during the inauguration of the Expo. This year I didn't win anything. So what I'm going to show you is the games that I bought at the flea market and those that I bought at the store here at the Expo. So I actually bought one game at the flea market and I bought 3 games at the store. And I'm not just going to show them to you. I'm going to unbox them here also. So let's take a look first at the games that I bought at the store. For the first one is not going to be unboxed. It's going to be unbagged. It is Mediterranean Empires. This is Strategy and Tactics 330. And I like the premise of the game, so I said, oh, I'll buy it at the store and I'll save myself the shipping. So let's take a look at it. And it's your standard presentation for S&T. You have the magazine, and of course the rules for the game are in the middle of the magazine. You have an article, and the game is designed by Spanish designer Javier Romero. So here you have the article, lavishly illustrated. It's about these wars during the 1300s in the Mediterranean. And here you have the rules. And the rules are also well illustrated. You see there depictions of the counters. And I believe this is a 16-page rule book. So it's has some tables here. Field naval battle table and raid combat table, diplomacy table, unit recruitment cost summary, operation point cost table. And it reaches here, and the rest is the magazine. I think this is still the article here, the Catalan expedition to the east. So it has more articles, the Battle of Coleto Creek, 1836. So there's more articles here. The Chosin, this is Korea. And battles for East Prussia, Tannenberg, and the first battle of the Masurian Lakes. That's the beginning of World War II in the East. And this one is has really nice maps and illustrations. The Last Needless Slaughter by Dave Schroeder. And the Did You Know section, which is typical in S&T. So always looking forward to the magazine, which I'll check out on my trip back to Puerto Rico on the plane. So here we have the map. And let's take a look at the counters first. And the counters look all right in terms of thickness. They look substantial. Here we see the Genoese, Venice. So these are like the Italian states. In white, you have Aragon. In red, we have here, these I think are the North African Islamic kingdoms in white. Then we have the French in blue, Anjou. We have Castile in pink. England in brown, and here we have some event chits. So the counters look very nice. Who is the graphic artist? It's Dariusz Burachewski. I like the artwork of the counters. Here's the back of the counter sheet. Now let's take a look and open the map. Here we see the map. It's a standard 22 by 34 inch map. We have here on the left side half of Spain, and I believe these are the provinces controlled by the Kingdom of Aragon with the red cross. Then you have the provinces that are controlled by the French Kingdom Anjou dynasty. And then you have here the Italian states. You see Milan, Genoa, and they run over here to Venice, and they continue on to Dalmatia here, across the Aegean Sea. And now you see more spaces controlled by the French in the form of the Kingdom of Naples. And then here we see Sicily, and it looks like Sicily is controlled by the North African states. Malta is controlled by the French. And here we have our turn record track. Each turn represents 9 years, starting with 1281, and the 7th turn ends in 1350. And here we have the spaces of these North African Arabic kingdoms or states. And here we have an operation point cost table. Now on the other side of the map we have different tables, some which we saw in the rule book. You have the unit recruitment cost summary, terrain key, combat results. You have raid combat, and you have field and naval battle table. And here you have a general records track. And on the other side, I think you have the same tables, with the exception of this one, which is the diplomacy table. We see the other tables that we saw before. And this is a nice looking map, and of course, Decision Games, it's a Joe Yost map. I really like his maps. So that's Mediterranean Empire Strategy and Tactics, issue 330. So that's one of the games, actually a magazine game, that I purchased. Let's take a look at another of the games that I purchased here at the convention. This is In the Name of Justice, the Battle of Lewis. And this is 1264. This is a game by White Dog Games. And this is a game that is designed by Dale Gutt and published by White Dog Games. So this is a medieval battle in 1264. So let's rip the shrink wrap and take a look at what's inside. So let's open the box, shall we? And we see here the rules. They come in 2 back printed cardstock sheets, which are stapled together. So it's a 4-page rule set, right? And here you have examples of cavalry, infantry, and missile combat units. And here we have examples of ward leaders and their subordinate leader units. So it's a 4-page rule book, and with 4 pages, it's one of 2. You go, well, I'm glad that it's not a 64-page rule book. It's only 4, unless you start reading the rule book and notice that there's some stuff missing, and then you go, I wish it had a little more than 4 pages. I don't know what the case is for this game. I haven't read the rule book, so I have no reason to believe that we will need more than 4 pages. Here is a player aid card. This is the ward leader setup card. So you have the hexes where the leaders set up in each of the wards. And then here we have the examples of combat. We have another player reference card. We have a terrain effects chart. So you have clear terrain, road, gate, bridge, hill, buildings, stream, wall, and marsh/river, and the movement point cost. And then on the other side, you have the sequence of play, just 3 phases: ward activation, end of turn, housekeeping, and check for victory conditions. But the ward activation apparently is divided into 5 steps. And then you have the forms of combat here. You got missile fire, the table and the modifiers table. And then you have melee combat, the modifiers, and the melee combat result table. And then we have the counter sheet, one counter sheet. So you have a total of 8 counters in each row, and you have 9 rows. So it's 72 counters. You have the British in brown, and you have the French in gray. And the counter art is by Jose Ramon Faura. I like the counter art. And here we see the back of the counters, which appears to be reduced strength. And there's some other counters that are activation markers. So I don't know if this is a chit pool game, but it has activation markers. Now let's take a look at the map. This is a 22 by 17 inch map. You have several shades here which appear to indicate altitude. And you have here the town of Lewis. There's a castle. It is right next to a river here. You have St. Pancras Priory. You have some marsh terrain. And this appears to be clear terrain. You have a road. There's some more clear terrain to this side. And there appears to be some elevated terrain here, a hill. So I don't know anything about this battle. I don't know how it starts. And here we have a turn track. And each turn is 1 hour long. So it starts at 5 a.m. and it ends 4 p.m. So that's the game map, the counters, 2-player aid cards, and the rules. And that is In the Name of Justice by White Dog Games. And the next game that I purchased at the store at the convention was this game, also by White Dog Games, Bonaparte in Italy. The Castiglione campaign, 1796, a game designed by Jacques Rabier, and I enjoyed very much his game on Khartoum, the Siege of Khartoum. Even though I played the basic game, I should have played the advanced game. The basic game was too easy for the player that controls Gordon and the besieged British and residents of Khartoum. So I decided to give this game a try. Here we see the back of the box. You get a rulebook, a playbook, an extended example of playbook. That's good. Play raids, 1 combat board, 1 25 by 22 inch game map. So this is a little bigger than the half-size maps that we normally see, and 176 5/8 of an inch counters. So let's rip the shrink and let's see what's in the box. So let's open the box and take a look at what's inside. We see, first thing, counter sheet, and this is a 2-player game. Jacques Rabier did Lion of Khartoum, which is a solitaire game, but this is a 2-player game. Here we see the French units, and they have the names of their leaders. And you see Napoleon Bonaparte there. You have Ogoro, and you have others. And then you have the Austrian army here, commanded by Wurmer. And you see the other units there. And you have some cohesion hit markers, out of command markers, dummy markers, forage, destroyed bridge, combat markers, and the game turn marker. And the back of the units shows their national flag, more cohesion hits, and the other kind of markers that we just alluded to. And then there's a playbook, and this has the optional rules. It also has here the Road to Rivoli, another optional rule. So these are all optional rules that you can use. And this is 8 pages. Then we have the next book is the extended example of play. So there's a full extended example of play for one turn. This has 8 pages and it is well illustrated. One full turn. And then we have these play raid cards. We have, for example, here the extended sequence of play. Start with the supply, then command, initiative, and then the first player moves. First player combat phase, second player moves, second player combat phase. Recovery and end of turn. And then we have the historical setup, first for the French and then for the Austrians. And there's an optional free setup. And then we have this track of hits that you keep for each of the armies. Obviously, you want to make a photocopy for this. And you have the French units, and you have the Austrian units on the backside. And then apparently we resolve battles here in a display. This is the combat board. So you see, for example, here is the French side. You have a space for concentric attack, for army, and to the sound of guns. And here you keep track in the bottom of cohesion hits. And the same goes with the Austrians. And there's a little space here to place a marker denoting which combat round you are executing. And got some more play raids. We have the optional reconnaissance matrix here. And this is blank in the back. Then you have some tables here. Cohesion hits, optional reconnaissance table. Got here the combat resolution table, the die roll modifiers, pursuit table. And then you have more tables here, terrain effects chart, forage table, force march, artillery bombardment, and more. And finally, we reach the rule book. The rule book has a total of 12 pages. As I stated before, this is a 2-player game. And we have some color coding here. Some illustrations here in the command phase. And that's 12 pages of rules. And finally, we got the map. So let's open up the map. Here we see the map. It is a strange size. It's not a conventional size, 25 by 22. So it's almost a square, and we have it here in portrait orientation. And we see here there's spaces for eliminated French units and wounded French leaders. And this is a point-to-point map. We see spaces that cross rivers. And we have this lake here, Lake Garda, which is in the middle of the map. And here we have, I guess, the French starting positions. We're going to be around here. And the Austrians have these spaces here. I don't know if that's a supply space. So it's a nice looking map. I like the period flavor that it has. And here we see like a summary of the description of the counters. And we have a description of the units. So it's the top number is strategic rating, then command rating, then tactical rating, and rank. So it's That's a sample leader counter. And then we have the units. The numbers are strength, cohesion, and movement allowance. And you have a unit type there, like that's an infantry unit. You have Austrian garrison, French artillery, and Austrian cavalry. So here we have an Austrian army leader, Würmer. Bonaparte is the French army leader. And we have the general here, an Austrian generic general. And the French, that's Massena, so that's not a generic general. And we have the markers that we saw before. Here we see a map key, non-destroyable bridge. Bridge, we have rivers, roads, city areas like Verona, clear area, mountain area, and we have French supply and Austrian supply. And then we have the turn record track. Each turn represents 1 day. And it has a total of 9 turns. And finally, we have the eliminated Austrian units box and wounded Austrian leaders box. So that's Bonaparte in Italy by White Dog Games. Those are the 3 games that I bought at the store, but I purchased 1 game at the flea market. And that is this game by Hollenspiel, Blood in the Fog, the Battle of Inkerman. And that's 1854, a game designed by Amabel Russell and the map art by Ilya Kudryashov. This is volume 7, or number 7 in Hollenspiel's lineup of games. And this is unpunched. Here we have the rules. And this rule book has apparently 9 pages. And the reason I picked up this game is because I like the way that it recreates the strength of units. The units have 1 informational counter, and then if a unit has a strength of 5, it has 5 strength counters beneath. And as it loses strength, if it loses 2 strength, you remove 2 of the counters. So a simple look at the map and you'll be able to determine the strength of each of your units. Of course, in this game, stacking is limited to 1 unit per hex. So here we have the fire tables, Allied event phase, terrain effects on movement, and here we have the charge table. And it brings 2 blue dice. Here we see the display. There's a fog track because this battle was affected by a brutal fog, which really hampered both sides, but I think the Allies took advantage of the fog. And you have the Russian victory track here and the Allied victory track at the bottom. This is 1 sheet. And then we go to the counters, and here we see the fronts. So you have the Allied units here, which are basically British. And here you have the Russians. And these are the counters that you place on top of the stack. So if a unit has a strength of 5, it's going to have this counter plus 4 others underneath. And as it loses strength, you remove those strength or step counters. And here you see the step counters in the bottom. You see those ones in red and blue. For the Allies, these are the French, the blue counters. And you have also step counters for the Russians. And this game brings 1.5 sheets of counters. That's the main sheet, and then you have a half sheet here, which adds more step counters. And these are the same on both sides. They are used only to indicate a unit's strength. So far, these are the games that I've purchased in CSW Expo at the flea market and at the store. And this is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching.